Okay, so let's talk now about substituting oils. This is a hot topic of conversation because people often get a little bit stuck with it. So the rule of thumb is this: if somebody's contraindicated for an oil, as long as you check your safety data sheets to make sure that what you're substituting out is also not contraindicated, then you can effectively substitute any oil so long as it's not contraindicated, okay? However, we do have some great go-to oils that we thoroughly recommend. That was Gary's first choice if you needed to substitute an oil. So for example, if you need to substitute basil because someone suffers epilepsy, then Idaho Balsam Fir was Gary Young's preference as to which oil you would substitute in the raindrop technique. If you wanted to, or if you needed to substitute wintergreen because someone was on blood thinning medication, then we know that palmarosa holds the same frequency as wintergreen, which supports the bones. So palmarosa then is a very good substitute. We also need to substitute peppermint out at times for high blood pressure or for pregnancy. And so copaiba also has that same amplification and the ability to drive in oils deeper, very much like peppermint does. So that's another great substitute. Sometimes you might want to add in emotional support for a person. And so you can, pull out an oil or add in a couple of extra, but the rule of thumb is that we don't use more than 11 different oils and in an entire raindrop session, okay? That's the general rule of thumb that we have there. Now, while we're talking about emotional oils, included in your student master pages is this beautiful little emotional substitute chart. Or it's not really a substitute, it's an emotional application chart. And one of the reasons I want to encourage you to explore and experiment with this after your certification is because people can address specific emotional issues. So, for example, if you want to address, let's say someone's got some real underlying anger issues, you're going to be able to bring that to the surface doing an anger raindrop. Now, what that means is, if you have a look at our chart, we've got in the center here, Valor, Oregano, and Thyme. So Gary always said that you could substitute any oils that you wanted, and his biggest challenge was to perform raindrop the same way twice because everybody's needs were different. However, when he started a raindrop, he always set it up with Valor, Oregano and Thyme. So we'll always do the Valor balance, we always Vitaflex Oregano and Thyme in, and then whatever the other oils that we're utilising, depending on the purpose. And then when you flip them over onto their back, you would still do Oregano and Thyme as your first two oils along the spine, and you would still add Valor in at the end, okay? So those three oils are very important components in the foundation of raindrop technique. Even though you may want to substitute oils out. Now, you can do an emotional raindrop for self-loathing, somebody who's really down on themselves, just doesn't like who they are as a person. We can treat that at an emotional level to help them lift themselves out of that space. Sometimes people are a little bit brain foggy or just have a hard time thinking clearly or making decisions. We can give them a clarity raindrop. Someone who's just experienced a trauma or a loss and has some grief that they're holding on to, we can support them in that by giving them a raindrop that supports them to release their grief in their own way, in their own time. So there's lots of different ways that we can use emotional oils and substitute oils in our raindrop technique. The other thing that we can do is do a beautiful tree oil raindrop. I thoroughly recommend it. It's very grounding, and that's where you would use Valor, Oregano and Thyme to begin with, but you would use then a selection of tree oils, and I would thoroughly recommend Idaho Balsam Fir, Northern Lights Black Spruce, frankincense, sandalwood, all of those beautiful oils. It's a little more expensive to do a treatment that way if you're going to use those more expensive oils, but there is still cypress. Cypress is a beautiful tree oil. We've got, my brain is not working right now, but we have a load, Young Living has loads of different tree oils for you to choose from. Pine's a tree oil. Just play around with that. The Feelings kit is a great kit that you can use for doing raindrop with. And the Ancient Scripture Oils is also a fantastic kit to use. However, I will advise, Don't use cassia oil if you're going to use the ancient scripture oils. It's exceptionally hot and it's going to be far too much of a skin sensitivity issue for anyone, regardless of where you put it. All right? So yeah, have a play around with that, guys, because you'll see some fantastic results, and make sure you record what you observe in your practitioner notes section on your log session. All right?